Welcome, guys. Is another Instagram live with your host Danny Glover, the master aficionado. You know where it is. Big up Tommy W Pace in the building. First in, we are live and we are going to get into what transpired last night. It was a mad, well, it was very exciting, very eventful. We had USYK Joshua 2. We had Usman Edwards 2. So we had two rematches on our hands. One being with Alexander Usyk versus Anthony Joshua. That first fight was last year. Kamaru Usman versus Leon Edwards. That started, wasn't that like 8 years ago for my UFC MMA fans? You guys can update and get the right dates and all that type of stuff. So yeah, anyone who wants to come in and chop it up, you know, thoughts on what on the fight last night, on any of the fights last night, undercards. We had Callum Smith versus Matthew Bowderly, Ramla Ali, Andrew Tabiti versus the Beast Wilson, obviously Joshua Usyk. Yeah, come in and chop it up. Give us your thoughts on how you thought the fight went, what you liked, what you didn't like, what's next for both, what's next in the world of boxing. Tyson Fury, he's come out now. You know, I don't know if you've seen his story, and he's coming out on his rant and stuff. He's saying he will come out, but you need to pay big bucks and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, let us know who's in the building right now. We have the boss Don, the most honourable. We got Shakan Pitters, big up. Any of you want to come in, just hit the request button. Pugilist, Jack Athlete, yep, Jack Gladman, Cyrilla Music, Zhang was robbed, yep, Zhang, yes, in many people's eyes he was robbed. He had Philip Hergovich hurt all over the place. They skanked him. So big up Simon White. You felt sorry for AJ. Boxing Dad ACW, shout out as well. Why did you feel sorry for AJ? Simon White, let us know. Or come in and have a chat, chop it up. Yes, Pugilist, if you want to hop in, we're here ready to chop it up. I haven't done an Instagram live in a while, but I think it's very fitting. Rather than doing a neutral corner pod, I think today is better to do a live. So yeah, anyone else who wants to come in. Outburst was odd and embarrassing, but he was in pieces, Simon White says. Yep, I can understand the emotion. Big up Terror. And yes, big up Pugilist Tony. Make sure you guys head over to also and follow the Pugilist Boy YouTube channel that's now up and running. He's got a couple of videos out on there, and also follow him on Instagram. He is bringing great content and great conversations of years of wisdom, because you know, as Ralph Shirt says, a lot of people don't know shit about boxing, but you sure do.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you. How you doing, pal?
Yeah, I'm good, man. All good. So yeah, AJ Usyk AJ 2 last night. What was your thoughts, man?
It's emotional, brother. It's emotional. I mean, you know, I like to start off by quoting October Red Boxing. That's my dog.
Oh, she's just coming.
I got a lot of time for AJ. I think following the defeat last night, I've seen some really disparaging comments. I think that there's been a really bad reaction by some people. I think, you know, look, we're boxers. We've walked the walk and we've talked the talk. We've been in the square circle. We know what it takes to get to the top. We, you know, neither of us have got to that level, but we know what it takes to be successful as a boxer. And I think when people start going in on boxers and they ain't walked that walk, it's very hard to stomach. And for that reason, you know, I understand why AJ was emotional the way he was. You know, it doesn't detract from the fact that, to me, he just met one of the greatest boxers currently in the sport right now. And he came up short. He didn't come up massively short. He didn't get overwhelmed in a fight, but he just came up short. No ifs, buts, or maybes. He came up short. But there's no shame in losing to that guy, because that guy easily top 4, easily, pound for pound, to me, no doubt. You know, but yeah, you know, as I said, it's kind of emotional seeing him break down the way he did. You know, you kind of wish that he could have been surrounded by better people. And I don't know the people concerned personally. I know some of them by name, you know, like Sir Alex Fernandez, Robert Garcia, Benga, but I don't know those guys personally. So I don't know how their relationship is with AJ, and how they felt that they couldn't contain him emotionally at the end of the fight. But yeah, you know, I'm gonna start off like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and what it is, people just have to, because I've seen some disparaging things from civilians, I call them, in their stories, some of their posts and stuff, mainly on my Danny Glover page, on the Fight Fan TV stuff, on the things, the stories. People are a bit more sensible, but you know, I see people. Oh, I think I've seen even women who have an alternative lifestyle, called they're like studs. They're saying they think that they can beat up AJ, get them 6. I'm like, all right, you see. So what it is, we've come into a culture now where if you take a loss, it's just completely unacceptable in a fight. If you know, and why Anthony Joshua, I feel, was so upset, it's because it's like, if you go for a job interview, you've nailed the interview, you've got all the qualifications, and you're just not good enough. There was just a better candidate than you. That's just life, unfortunately. And it is going to hurt because you've put everything into it and you've come up short. And as you said, I agree. He done a lot better than the first fight. He showed his improvements. Unfortunately, Usyk just has a better output and it just has a better skill set. AJ brought out the best in Usyk, because that Usyk, we haven't seen. He turned up the heat in the last rounds when he realized it was close, and he was. And Anthony Joshua showed better defense, showed better durability in taking shots, better recovery, better stamina, but it just weren't good enough. And you know what? If you give your best and you lose, that's all I ask for. Lose like someone who cares and like a valiant man. And it's the Warriors code, as Chris Eubank Sr. says: take your beating like a man and don't look for the fire exit. And that's what he did last night. So to me, I'm proud of Anthony Joshua. And regarding his team, yes, the only person I saw who was trying, well, 2 people, funny enough, was his cousin Benga, who was holding him back when it seemed like he tried to go for somebody, and Derek Chisora as well. Because, but then even when he was going out his ring, his dad tried to hug him, and he started kind of getting aggressive, like, get off me, to his dad, which I was very surprised and I didn't like to see, because I thought, you know, you're normally so respectful, bowing at your dad's feet and stuff like that. But his head must have been in such a mad place. Hopefully, surely he must have been apologizing profusely to his dad an hour later or in the morning. But that wasn't good sight to see. But you know what? Sometimes when you have the pressure of the world on your shoulders, not just this entire country, because you've got the whole of British boxing relying on you, he's got a whole continent in Africa looking to him for inspiration. We haven't lived the kind of roller coaster life he's lived for the past 10 years. He's had to put on, you know, a persona where he probably is more of a street guy. But we always complain about, oh, why do we get on TV and start going on this way and yo, and acting like Top Boy? So when he's now trying to put himself as a more refined person, we're calling him fake. Why don't you bring the street attitude to the screens? And then when he did do it, now we're like, oh, that was embarrassing for us. Oh, it hurt to see that. Oh, so which one do you, sometimes you have to be careful what you wish for. So to me, he was upset. It's just like when tennis players break their racket. I've seen baseball players break their bat, start shouting at umpires and stuff like that, and football players fly kicking fans and doing madness. So we don't get onto them so harsh about these things. So him throwing a strop and stealing the mic and ranting, that's the least of our problem for someone who's in a violent sport who could start licking off heads if he really wanted to. So really, we should be happy he just had a little meltdown. Yeah,
it's true. It's true. Yeah, I mean, you know, let me address his performance. You know, I feel slightly disappointed because I did think the inclusion of Robert Garcia would present us with something a little bit more nuanced than what we saw last night. Yes, there was improvement defensively, but I kind of feel like the talk prior to the fight about needing to be on the front foot, being more aggressive, you know, using some dark arts perhaps. Yes, we saw, you know, little snippets of it later on in the fight, but really and truly, I kind of felt that there was a lot of missed opportunities in the fight where certain situations technically would occur, like where USYK would perhaps stand in a position where his right hand, because he's a southpaw, would be down, and he would be open for a left hook. Sometimes, and I know, you know, look, I can show you my chin, and it doesn't mean to say just because you throw a punch, you're going to hit me on it. USYK's movement, his defense is superior, but I just kind of feel like in working out how to beat a USYK, you have to get into the habit of hitting every part of him that presents an opportunity. So if he stands in a shell, hit the shoulder. If you can't get the chin, hit the shoulder. It's like Canelo Alvarez. Canelo will bang the hell out of your arms if you shell up, yeah? Because he knows eventually those arms are going to drop. And in fact, he's inflicted damage on people's arms because of the sheer power that he puts into some of those shots. So I felt that Anthony had opportunities where he was close enough to unleash really destructive punches. And we know how hard he hits. I kind of felt like also he was falling short with some of his straight right single shots. And they weren't really showing a technical capability that I think he should have honed. Because if I'm fighting a southpaw, I'm literally spending hours of every day honing my ability to move my feet into a position and launch a right straight into your chest. And I mentioned it to some of my friends yesterday. I'm a great fan of Evander Holyfield. I've loved Evander Holyfield, beaten loads of his fight. And Evander used to throw jabs at people's chests. And he wasn't like 6'9" or nothing. He was a short heavyweight. Yeah. And coming up from cruiserweight, what he continued to do was throw shots straight at your chest. And it gets to the point where you can't miss. Because if you position your feet appropriately and you throw that shot, I can move my head, but my body's still there. And I felt that technically, AJ didn't show that he had mastered the strategy of being able to position my feet for the orthodox fighter against the southpaw. I'm going to move my left foot outside of your right foot, yeah? And I'm going to move into a position where my foot is now in a position where I cannot miss, yeah? And I'm going to throw a straight right, straight down the pipe. Now, if I aim that at your chest and you move, I'm still going to connect. And I just kind of felt like there were certain things, and you know, look, I'm not privy to seeing what goes on in camp. I don't know what goes on in sparring, but bearing in mind that this is the elite boxing, these are some of the things that I would teach an amateur, because you know, as an amateur coach myself previously, and now, you know, if I've got a fighter and I see him against a southpaw and he's an orthodox boxer, I'm saying make sure your left foot is on the outside of the guy's right foot and position it so that it's in range, yeah, so that when you throw that right cross, it's right in the hot area, yeah. Further to that, there's a lot of single shots where he hits USYK, and it's a single shot, and I'm like, but you can't just throw the right cross. You got to come, you know, your body is turned all the way across now. You have to come back to a straight position. If I'm coming back to a straight position, what have I got to throw? Left hook is a natural, you know, and even if I miss it, it's coming across, yeah, just throw the thing. I'm still going to be in a guard position, you know. So I kind of like questioned, like, there are certain things in that fight I look at and I go, you missed the opportunity. Sometimes, you know, we saw some good body work in the late rounds, and I just thought to myself, where was that at the start of the fight? You know, the one thing I would have implored him to do as a trainer, coming up against a guy like USYK, slow him down with the body shots. You know, just every time you get an opportunity, throw those hands at the body. And USYK is so good, so good. I mean, there's just so much to admire about him as a boxer. But look at the way he can throw punches in bunches, but he doesn't have to throw them with venom and bad intentions each time. He can hit you, touch you, you know, and he knows he's setting you up for something hard that's coming at some point in a combination. You know, he's pouring out, but he's doing it in such a way that he's getting you to react. There are a couple of times where AJ used a feint, and I thought that was good. And it looked like it did actually create a reaction from USYK, but he didn't capitalize on it. And I was like, oh man, you threw the feint, he moved into the position that you want him to, but you didn't capitalize. And for that reason, again, I kind of was like, God, there were so many things that were missed, so many opportunities were open for him to do really big damage on that guy in early rounds, and he didn't capitalize. And ultimately down the stretch, he didn't do enough.
Yeah. So yeah, OTC, following on from what Tony said, so what was your assessment of the fights, and yeah, what's your overall thoughts on the fight and the post-fight antics from, you know, Anthony Joshua?
Yeah, well, big up guys, by the way, big up Tony. I hope everyone's
make sure you subscribe to Off the Canvas Boxing on YouTube, and follow him also on Instagram to get notifications about his YouTube channel and all his content as well, because he is one of the best in the business. This is if you want to subscribe now to Off the Canvas Boxing, this is the right time to be subscribing.
Yeah, well, much love for that. Much love for that. Well, put it this way: the last video that I dropped wasn't quality. It was a bit downbeat. It was it sounded like a eulogy, but we move on. In terms of AJ's performance, now I had a chance to sleep and kind of calm myself down because I was a bit distraught yesterday. I might have been saying some bad stuff, but it is what it is. Early on in the fight, I knew exactly what he was trying to do. He was trying to wear Usyk's body down in the hope that Usyk would be a little bit more static in the second half of the fight, so then he can then apply his combination punches and then get him the hell out of there. The issue is that by the time we got to that second half of the fight, Usyk had that recovery, you know, within his body, that second wind, and then when it came to AJ's front, his stamina dropped gradually throughout the fight, and therefore that ultimately wasn't the number one tactic. But at the same time, I don't think he could have done anything differently to make him win that fight. Nothing that he could have done differently, in my opinion, would have helped him win that fight yesterday. Even the only thing different that he could have done is kind of just went for it in the first 3 rounds. And maybe scored a knockdown. If he scored a knockdown within the first half of the fight, I think he potentially could have won that fight. He potentially could have won that fight if he scored a knockdown. And there was a round as well where a couple of rounds where he was just standing there. He was kind of stuttering, in 2 minds about it. And Usyk just came in and said, you know what, all right, I'll just take the chance here. 1-2, and pivoted on the front foot. Sometimes you just miss 100% of the shots that you do not take.
Yeah.
And maybe AJ did. Yeah.
No, go on, say maybe. Finish.
And you know what? Maybe AJ didn't take enough risks early on. He did try to do it in the second half of the fight, particularly, but at that point his battery was a little bit more worn. Usyk had a couple of an extra gear to go down, and you know what? That's all she wrote.
Yeah.
I just remembered something that I was spotting from early doors as well. He kept throwing a really short uppercut, way short of the target. He was throwing it, and it was missing the target by like inches. I'm literally thinking to myself, who teaches a guy to throw an uppercut here when your opponent is so far away? I mean, again, if I'm training a guy and I'm saying, right, throw your hook here, throw your uppercut here, he has to understand. And during sparring is when you hone that craft, when you throw the uppercut. Because to throw an uppercut and you miss the target, it's something wrong technically there. And, this is not the time in your career that you should be, unable to know when to judge an uppercut to be thrown. I think the uppercut to me for AJ is a shot he just has never got to terms with.
I think he has. He's thrown some very highlight reel looking uppercuts in his time against
in his time, right? Absolutely. But if we talk about his heyday, he had great combinations, and I just don't know what's happened to that AJ.
That's the point.
He's struggling to get into distance. He's struggling to get into range nowadays, and that's ultimately the reason why. Whereas before, fighters will be a bit more on guard. They'll be a bit wary about his power, and then he will be kind of have the license to then step within range and then administer the uppercuts. I think now in this fight, it was mostly judging the distance between him and Usyk. Honestly, because if he got closer, I think he could have done a lot more damage.
I think his problem is not that. I think it's the earlier fighters don't have fleet foot. They're flat-footed. So when you're inside, they ain't going to move out of the way of the big uppercut like a Dillian White, like a 41-year-old Vladimir Klitschko. So when you've got someone like Usyk or Tyson Fury who are fleet-footed, they are going to make Anthony Joshua look quite novice-y and raw, because that's what he was doing. He was falling short, falling over his feet, looking quite amateurish, unfortunately. And that's because they're fleet-footed. So, as I was saying, where I wanted him to get inside and reel off combinations like he normally does, because he has great combinations, if you can't get into range to let them off, then you're going to struggle. When he did finally do it in round 9, is what he should have been doing earlier. But unfortunately, he started that very late. And when you're doing that late, when you're already in second win mode, then round 10, 11, 12, you've emptied the tank, unfortunately, and you can't quite rally how rally. And he was using an Elton ABC style. A guy called Steve Barrett, who's the head coach, he was using that tactic of pop, pop, and away, pop, 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 and away, stay off the line. And that's what he was doing to AJ. And that's how he ran away with the fight. As I said, he needed to do it within the first 7 rounds. After 7, Usyk's going to run away with the fight, and I thought AJ was going to do it between 4 and 7. He didn't, but he put up a great, valiant show. And you know what? You got beat by the better man, and that's it. He's just got to move on from it. He's lost twice to him, so now he has to find a whole new route back to a world title belt.
look,
Yeah.
in regards to that coming back, again, you know, people are saying, oh, he has to retire. You know, again, this is people who just don't understand the game of boxing. And
Civilians.
there are just so many fights out there for AJ. You know, look, the Zone have invested heavily in AJ. They need to recoup the money that they've decided to put in on AJ. And in order to do that, they need to get him out again. They need to line up title fight eliminators. They need to line up fights which will stir the interest of the public. And there are loads out there. Heavyweight boxing right now is actually quite interesting when we look at the playing field. The players in the game, you know, we saw on the undercard the supporting bout, Zhile Zhang against Filip Hrgović. You know, both those guys now have, you know, been on a big stage and are presented to the public their offering. You know, people would look at that fight and say, well, Zhang actually won the fight. But what, you know, Hrgović did was he said, you know what, I may have lost the fight, but I actually was in the fight and I showed what I can do. Coming off the fact that he lost his dad to you know, just prior to this fight, you know, we don't know how that affected him. But, you know, as I said, Zhang won the fight, but Hrgović got the decision. But those two now become players in the we're next category. And there's loads of guys out there who we could all say, you know what, where's Dillian White going next? Where's the winner of Hrgović versus Wilder? Where's the winner of Ruiz versus Ortiz gonna go? Where's the loser of those fights gonna go? So there's a whole bunch of guys out there that would make interesting fights. Maybe not the big pay-per-view stadium sellouts that AJ's been accustomed to, but still certainly easy. That guy will always sell out the O2.
And also, where's the winner of Parker versus Joe Joyce as well?
Joe Joyce.
They're big players in the game. So yeah, just to introduce Sajid into the equation now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm sure you watched the fight and everything. So what's your assessment?
Yeah, I mean, I've been listening. Hi, off the canvas as well. Nice to see you again, brother. I saw your post with the shock face there, and oh no, what happened, kind of thing. Yeah, no, it's I mean, just going back to what you said, it's interesting, Tony. I met your old gym mate Lloyd Heavenly this morning at the Inter Club, and we were talking about it, and a couple of things came to mind. I mean, you've already touched on too many points, so I won't be repetitive. In terms of the Hrgović Chang fight, I think what Lloyd was saying is that in the rounds 9 to 12, he picked his game up a bit because he looked like he was almost going to get knocked out. I think in the 7th or 8th, you know, he was against the ropes and taking a bit of punishment, almost on the verge of, you know, sometimes a weak referee can stop it. But Lloyd reckoned that in rounds 9 to 12, he turned it up a little bit, and that's what the sort of judges saw. You know, those last 3 rounds, him just pulling away. And also, in terms of what, you know, you was mentioning earlier about Joshua, about AJ, I don't know about you guys, but Lloyd mentioned it, and I thought similar as well. He looked a little bit gun-shy. And the thing about it is, I don't actually, because AJ's never actually been sparked out. He's never actually been, you know, completely unconscious. When he was stopped by Ruiz, he was stopped on his feet. So that was a bit of a surprise to me as well, how, you know, sorry I'm speaking 100 miles an hour, but I hope you get, you guys, I've known you guys long enough to get the gist of what I'm saying. You know, he could have probably pushed it a little bit further, like you mentioned, Tony, you know, when he throws that jab, feint or whatever, come back with a big right hand and actually, you know, imposes size on USYK. And at times it looked as if USYK was shoving Anthony off, you know, like shoulder rolling, pushing him off with the shoulder, which is at times I find a bit surprising as a smaller man. So that's a couple of points I picked, you know, mentioned with you guys. And again, in terms of his loss, I don't think having a loss, even a succession of losses, is that problematic, because back in the day, fighters could have many losses, but they'll still be in that heavyweight equation. You know, someone like Ron Lyle or people like that. I mean, I think Jersey Joe Walcott lost to Ezra Child, what, 4 out of 5 or something, isn't it? And still, you know, still got his title shots and stuff. So it's, yeah, it's those are sort of like immediate points. So yeah. You know.
Yeah, even when you're talking about the following up on shots and getting pushed off, because I noticed Tunde Ajayi, he was doing a live with Spencer Theory last night, and he noted when he was doing his commentary saying, good right hand by AJ, but then Usyk pushed him off. He's like, and what it is, sometimes, yes, AJ looks very pumped up, but one saying I've always said from many years ago is that they're built for show and they're built to go. I don't think AJ's as strong as he looks. So where he looks very physically strong, I don't think he actually is physically strong. Hence, we always say impose your size. He can never do it. He never tussles anybody. He can't grapple anybody. He can't push anybody around because he's not strong enough to do it. He is. He pumped weights, as he said, because he wanted to learn how to do boxing. Because he thought if he goes inside, he needs to look after himself. So he's naturally not a really big guy. You can tell by his physique. He's not really a big, strong guy like that. Yes, he's powerful.
You mean by his frame? By his bone structure in his frame?
He's not naturally a big, like, where's Fury? He's just a big old lump. So he can lean on you and push you and headlock you and drain you. AJ can't drain nobody out, unfortunately. Look like he can, but he can't. Hence, someone like Usyk could push him around. And someone like Fury, if he gets hold of AJ, he's draining him very quickly, unfortunately.
Yeah, one of the things also I was talking to Lloyd about is, you know, that whereas Fury or someone like Foreman, for example, when they fought smaller guys, what they did is they sort of slapped their hands down, they sort of grapple with, kept their hands out. You know, if you look at Foreman versus Frazier, for example, he was pushing his hands down and bang, pushing, you know, sort of leaning on him, pushing him down, shunting him back with, you know, just pushing him back. Josh doesn't seem to do that. You know, he's all right against bigger guys, but against smaller guys, you know, he didn't do that.
Really,
I mean, that's a technical aspect of the sport that AJ just never has had. And you know, there are things that you look at in his game, and I said to one of my friends yesterday as we were watching, you know, AJ looks like painting by numbers. You know, he does everything by the book, and it looks like someone has to call the number and say this, and it's not natural to him to go, oh, you know, just feel my way into a fight. I think he's always thinking, and I look in his eyes when he's boxing, and I think, you know, there's a guy that thinks too much when he's boxing instead of just being natural. And this is what makes a great boxer. A great boxer just needs to see a twitch of a shoulder and knows what's going to happen. You know, because I'm looking at your eyes, yeah? As a boxer, I'm always looking at your eyes. I never look anywhere else but at your eyes. I jab you to the stomach, I'm still looking in your eyes. And as I'm looking in your eyes, the peripheral vision sees twitches in the shoulders to know I'm about to throw a right. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to slip, and I'm going to come back with that. You know, and as we know, Floyd Mayweather is the master of being able to read exactly what a fighter is about to do. Shoot the right, catch, counter, you know. So all of these things require a level of natural capability, which unfortunately AJ never has shown. You know, he's shown in the past what I would call fighting spirit, especially likes of Dillian White, Vlad Klitschko. You know, look, you hurt me, I'm just coming straight back at you. I'm going to hurt you back. Whereas, you know, where he developed along the years and tried to instigate more boxing, he's lost that fighting spirit, but hasn't gained that natural ability to just read certain things in a fight and take advantage of his natural advantages.
Yeah, and what it is, I've said this before, is that he is a choreographed boxer. He reminds me of a choreographed dancer. He can't do initiative. He's a numbers guy, where everything is like he's thinking, 1, 2, 3 and 4, 5, 6. Oh man, I've messed up the dance routine. Let me start again.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3 and 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And if he messes up, so you can easily throw him off sequence because he's a choreographed fighter. And if you can't freestyle, if you're not a freestyle dancer, a freestyle fighter,
it's that composure as well, isn't it? You talk about Floyd, and you know, Floyd had composure. You know, he was still he kept his cool and his calm under immense pressure. Same thing with Muhammad Ali, Sugar Ray Leonard. I mean, even you know, Fury, he has this composure when he's under pressure. I mean, sometimes Joshua is a bit like Amir Khan. He's sort of like he gets a bit frenetic. He gets a bit panicky. I thought a little bit. You know, when he gets hit. I mean, for example, when Joshua threw his big shots, Usyk was catching them. There was that slight turn of the chin. You know, that slight movement. So he didn't catch the full impact.
Yeah, right.
He was getting caught flush. Even though there might have been lighter blows, they were catching him flush, and because Usyk throws punches in bunches, as they say. That's why he sort of was going like that. Even with, you know, lightish combinations, it was visible he was getting hit. Whereas I think Usyk was able to sort of just negate the impact of the blow, and again, you know, sort of come down to sort of composure and just that sort of mental mindset, if I might say so.
Yeah, but then. Yeah, I agree. So moving on the night's play out, what was your thoughts on his post-fight behaviour? So yeah, what were your thoughts about that?
I've heard a lot of things being said. I think basically my initial thought was he went into a bit of a meltdown. I'm not, you know, that's just the sort of words I use. I think I was listening to Spencer Oliver. And obviously, you know, the Oliver family is very close with Joshua, with AJ. So I think they said 2 or 3 things. One, I think he was just completely, you know, after such a tough fight, he was just completely out of it, basically, to a certain extent. You know, that sort of meltdown kind of thing. Obviously, I think also with Anthony, I think he tends to stay hit quite a bit. So I think he wasn't quite. He was a little bit on the concussed side, if I may say so. So he wasn't quite thinking straight, if you know what I mean. You know, like when you've been bashed up or something, or even if you play rugby, boxing, even if you come in a tough spar, you guys have boxed at very good level, yeah, especially you and Tony, all stars at big clubs, alumni of big boxing clubs. When you come out of rough spar and that, you know, it takes you a while to sort of get your bearings back. And I think Anthony, you know, at the immediate cusp of the moment, he just sort of lost his rag a little bit. That's my initial thinking. I can't really complicate it too much.
Yeah, on that side,
I mean, a lot of people have been very negative on his comments, but I think, you know, it's a difficult one to say. Yeah, sorry, brother. What's Karen?
I don't think that it's that the fight affected that the outburst afterwards. I think that outburst would have came if you had lost either way.
Sorry, you would have had it even if it,
yeah, because it was like a complete like mental breakdown. It just appeared that he just getting all of his frustrations from within outside. It wasn't something that was happening in the ring. It was just he let all of his frustrations out.
A-Class, I agree. I think A-Class made a good point there. Yeah, so I think Danny said earlier on, you know, when you said, Danny, you said that, you know, like you go for a job interview, yeah, and you give it your best, and you've tried to tick all the boxes, but just a better candidate comes through, and you go out that interview, you know, I should have got that job. That was my job. Why didn't I get it? Look how brilliantly I did. You know, I've seen it with the work colleagues myself. You know, when they go for a job interview and they fail and they get well pissed off. What can I get? How dare he get that job? You know, that job was mine. You know, it's like that me mentality. And I suppose you've got to have that tunnel vision. And when you're a one-on-one combatant, you can't sort of like say, oh, your teammate played rubbish or something like that. It's on you as an individual. And I think he just, you know, just lost it that way.
Yeah, especially when you go for an interview and it's like an internal recruitment, and all of a sudden they get someone external for the job, and you're just thinking, "Oh, you've been sharpened." But OTC, what did you think about the post-fight presser when he actually did break down? Eddie Hearn started to cry too. Also, and Future, you can give your thoughts on that. And I thought on the way back, some older gentleman said something about, yeah, keep it professional, and AJ switched on him as well. Yeah, what
I think that might have been the ref. That guy looked like he was a referee.
The ref was white. This guy was black.
No, that referee was refereeing what's his name, Hergovic versus Zhang. I think it was that referee.
Oh, okay.
I think it was that guy.
But the Hergovic Chang referee was the same one for the. So he refereed back-to-back fights. Is that what you're saying?
No. The one who came afterwards. He said, "Do you know what it is? When you're in that situation, right, and you see somebody going through that level of, that through heated emotions, etc. Sometimes you just gotta just relax."
Yes.
Oh, pardon?
Yeah, intensity. Do you mean intensity? That level of intensity?
Yeah. If somebody's going through that level of intensity, you just got to keep your mouth shut, let them breathe, etc. If they're about to attack someone, they're about to just go erratic, yeah, of course you jump in, you stop them. But if you see them walk into the change room, you don't just say, "Oh, keep it professional." Like there's a time and place, mate. Like, come on, man. Like, it's not the place for it.
Yeah. And what about sorry, Saj. And what about OTC? The actual press conference.
Yeah, that's what I was going to go on to. I think
it was. One thing aside,
carry on, bro.
It was look. He really wanted to win.
The comments had a chat in it.
Hold on, wait, Saj. You see on the lives, you have to be careful not to talk over people, because what it does, it distorts the sound. When it's on Instagram Live, it's very sensitive, the sound thing. On YouTube, it's a bit, you can more talk to people. On Instagram Live, you have to be very careful with silent when people talk. Yeah. Right,
on the press conference, he really wanted to win. You could tell that he wanted to win. All he had in his head was that I am going to win this fight, regardless. I think there's some sort of feedback. I think from Saj. I'm not too sure.
I think it's Saj. Yeah.
Yeah. In terms of the presser, look, that is a person that really wants to win. All of it, like everything in his body, really wanted to win that fight, and he just he reaped, unfortunately, and it appeared that he felt as though he wasn't fully like if someone asked, I think it was Antoine, "Are you proud of your performance?" He was like, "Nah, I can't be proud of my performance." And I think that, look, I've not been a world champion, but I'm just assuming that once you get into the ring, you give it your all, and you've got nothing left in the tank, then you should be proud of your performance. Do you understand? And I think AJ, in general, just likes to look after other people and understand that, look after his team, look after his family, look after even Eddie Hearn, etc. But I think within himself, I think he hasn't fully cared for number one, if that makes sense. And I think that really took its toll yesterday. It was a very heartbreaking thing to see. But you know what? I think going forward in the next fight, he can't fight. I don't think he should be fighting in the UK afterwards. Honest to God, I think a fresh change of scenery. I prefer, like, if he wanted to take a fight with a Zhang in China in December or something like that, or somewhere in their opponent's country, it might do him the world of good. But I think with everything around what's going on at the moment, I think AJ needs to look after himself. You understand? That's just in my opinion. Tony?
So here's a question I'd like to pose. On the basis that he now starts looking for the next fight, I think December, to be honest, would be a little bit too soon, personally. But I think a fundamental question is, who does he retain as his team? Who does he use to be his coach? Because, again, yesterday, there were points where your corner are telling you you're ahead in a fight when I don't think you are. and I kind of feel like he feels like he's been let down by the team around him. So what do you guys think in terms of, you know, do you think it's time for him to make a complete fresh change and start looking at just a completely different team?
Well, the team, it has. Well, the only person he did keep was the Angel Fernandez guy. So yeah, he's got Robert, but then Angel Fernandez is still part of the old guard. So that's what you really are alluding to, is like get rid of Angel then, really, ain't you?
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's others. I mean, obviously he's got a clique of guys around him that help, you know, strength and nutritionist, etc. I just feel like, you know, when you consider that you've got yes men around you, maybe you just need to go somewhere where you don't have any links with those guys, and you can start afresh with some new looks, some new faces around you, new sparring partners. You know, I know he used Waddy as one of his sparring partners. He's been using Waddy for years. But, you know, it's time to change that up.
Yeah.
Yeah, on the yes men part, look, I completely agree. When he was before he went to the ring to have his breakdown, only I think Benga tried to stop him at one occasion. I think
and Chisora.
And Chisora and his dad. But look, if AJ was outside punching up an old lady, would they all just stand there and watch him do it? That's the question I'd like to ask. If he's going, like, you know, in public, smashing up buildings, etc., what are they going to stand there and say, there, guys, just, you know, just let AJ do his thing? Do you understand? I think that, yes, he's got a couple of yes men, but I think that's what AJ wants. You know, sometimes you want those people around because they're not going to challenge you, etc., and they're not going to cause you any aggravation because they want to tell you you're amazing, you're the best, you're everything. So when you get into the ring, you've got self-belief within yourself.
But is that not good? Because, all right, fair enough, after round 3, the corner was telling him you're up, which he was 2-1. But after round 7, when they're telling him he's 3 points up, that is not the right tactics. The tactics they should have been using is, if you watched Kamaru Usman versus Leon Edwards last night, going into the 5th round, and he was down 3-1. Did you see that? Did you see the corner speech? Now, that was a motivational speech. He was like, what the F's wrong with you? Stop feeling sorry for yourself. Like, he's pushing him, like proper shoving Leon. Leon's like, I'm not. He's like, well, go out there. You've got to shoot him. You've got to shoot him. So that's why when he did land the kick, he's like, one shot dead. You didn't believe in me. Look at me now. And he's like, but that was like reminiscent of an Emmanuel Stewart speech. You need to watch that corner work of Leon Edwards, the Birmingham team. So that is what they need to do in the AJ corner. But unfortunately, they're not, because it's even what I brought up when I had Edgar as part of Team AJ on the neutral corner. Is I said about, you know, is it a good thing that he's gone with Roberto Garcia, because there was an element of, you know, too much familiarity with your team and some cheerleaders and yes men. And he was like, yeah, he understands that. But then, as you said, Pugilist, that there is still members of that old clique in there massaging him where he's not getting into reality. So yes, I saw someone talk about last night, maybe he needs to holler at Lennox Lewis and squash the beef. Maybe he needs to holler at someone like Bernard Hopkins and learn how to use some, you know, veteran-like tactics, and Hopkins could teach him how to use his veteran tactics as a big man to use some things on the inside, because his inside actual game is not really, as you said, Pugilist, is still quite lacking.
Yeah.
What's your
and
thoughts?
again, you know, in terms of those sparring partners, you know, I heard him reel off in the press conference prior to the fight the names of the guys that he was sparring with, giving them a lot of praise for working with him. And it kind of dawned on me then that, you know, this is a big fight. This is one of the biggest fights of your life. You know, would it go amiss if you called Joe Joyce in? Would it go amiss if you called Derek Chisora in? Would it go amiss if you called Daniel Dubois in? You know, killers. You know, and you know, I love Waddy and I love some of the other names that he called, but I just don't think at this level, you know, remember, Muhammad Ali used to spar Larry Holmes.
Religiously.
You know,
Keep sparring.
that's what I'm calling like top draw fighter. If you're gonna fight Foreman and you got a kid like Larry Holmes in your other corner, I'm like, yeah.
And as you said, when you was down in the Kronk gym, you would have Thomas Hearns sparring Wilder's old Mark Breland.
Yeah.
So this is the type of sparring. Yeah, them two are sparring each other. So these are the type of guys you need. He should have had someone like Gerard Anderson as a sparring partner. Nice, young, fast, elusive guy. But what it is, AJ was using these sparring partners, and I saw Xavier Miller come on to someone's live and say, "Oh yeah, they were the same sparring partners that Dillian White was using." So
that was the one with us, yeah.
Yeah. So it's on yours, on your platform.
Yeah.
So you're using the recycled sparring partners. It's just like there's a phone book, and you just get the same dudes. It's like,
yeah. Exactly.
Do you know what? In that, I think what I wanted after the first Usyk fight, I think AJ just about done half of it, and he got really half the results that he got in the ring. I would have preferred AJ to move outside of the UK, trade elsewhere, be in a mountain gym, no Wi-Fi, and just train up there, study the craft, and just hone in, and come out as a different animal. He was training. Well, he went from Sheffield to Loughborough, London. He got Robert Garcia, but he kept Angel Fernandez. And when you got in the ring, you got a half-baked performance.
Well, Simon White says he needs a trip to some nasty US gyms where you have to earn your respect. Okay, but he did go to the USA, and maybe he didn't like what he felt in those nasty gyms, because remember, last year he was going around having a real US tour of various gyms in America and Mexico, and maybe he didn't like that feeling, and that's why he's kept Angel Fernandez, and then he brought Robert Garcia over to the US rather than stay in the gritty dojo in America, which is not beneficial for him. But this is what he's decided, unfortunately. What's your thoughts, Pugis? Because I think OTC's kind of he's
yeah. I mean, you know, look, I don't know how much you've done, but I've toured the US, and everywhere I've ever been, I go find those gyms, I go find those sweaty halls, and try and engage. I've sparred with fighters out in the Far East, out in Thailand when I go there. I found a gym in South Africa when I went to South Africa. So look, I love the sport, and I love I've been privileged to be able to see it in different parts of the world, as a fan. But also to experience it as an ex-fighter and see how different places treat the game in their own respective countries and cities. You just got to do that work, and at the top of the boxing industry, it needs iron to sharpen iron. Look at the team that works out in Houston, Texas. You've got Errol Spence, the Charlo brothers. All them guys are sharpening each other week in, week out. So it's wrong to me that you should be picking up those guys to do your sparring, when really and truly you should have been picking up a few killers and saying, you know what, come in my camp, work with me.
Yep, real talk. Yeah, because it just seemed like they used the phone book of sparring partners and recycled what was an unsuccessful attempt at Tyson Fury. It wouldn't really seem much sense to use them against Usyk. Hold on, off the canvas coming back in. His Wi-Fi was. You might need to change your supplier, mate. I know the energy bills are going up, but come on, sort it out.
Apologies, guys. My phone keeps overheating, fam. I rested it on a bag of peas. It's not that deep. I swear to God. I rested it on a bag of peas because this is starting to get under my skin, fam. It's overheating, fam.
You can't make this up.
My phone is overheating, fam. Temperature's gone up. I said, what's going on here?
Was that iPhone 4?
I think it might as well be iPhone 4, fam, at this rate.
Oh man.
So yeah, what's your opinion about the fresh start of a training team, and what's your thoughts on the sparring partners he was using? Yeah,
On the training team, do you know what? I think it starts with the training team and then the sparring partners. If you get a new training team and a new camp, who does the sparring partner? I think it's 258. I think 258 brings the sparring partners in. And this
yeah,
is where it gets a bit technical, because I think 258 have done a great job for AJ outside of the ring. But in terms of sparring partners, who chooses those? Should it be the trainer? And in terms of the trainer, yes, he went over to the US, but he went over to the US with Angel Fernandez in his ear saying, this trainer's good, that trainer's bad, this trainer's good. And AJ was like, oh, I'm choosing whatever trainer that could work with Angel Fernandez. And that's where the problem started. Do you understand? That is where the problem started. And AJ's problem is that there was people amongst his team allowing him to do things in the ring that shouldn't be the case. Against Usyk, there was a lack of urgency, and not even Angel Fernandez stepped in. And Angel Fernandez allowed him to self-destruct.
And you know why? Because that goes back to a point you made about 7 months ago on the Stamina for Sale. It was like a Snapchat, as Tunde says. What was it you said?
No, listen, I said, is that if you've got aspirations to be a top level trader and AJ's taking you out to the US, what advice, or is that person the best person to listen to, knowing that they want to be number one? What number, like, if you're number two, what number one are you actually? You're gonna get the least crap number one, so that you can be number one effectively. So he went over to the US looking for traders. If you're number two, what do you think number two's doing? Whispering in your ear.
Yeah.
Whispering in your ear. It's like your ex is trying to tell you what wife to choose next. What do you think's gonna, like, bro? Come on, man. What do you think?
Hey, we might need to get you on Men's Talking for that one.
Do you know, fam? This is like, sometimes you've got to understand what you want out of your career.
Yeah.
And what type of people that you want around you. If you want people who are going to make you uncomfortable, both in the ring and during invites, then you need people who are not scared of your presence. And introducing somebody like Robert Garcia, just because he's compatible with Angel Fernandez, who Angel Fernandez has been effectively allowing AJ to do what he wants in the ring. I think he was brought in from the Pulev fight, which I would say was outstanding, but it was fairly good, to the Usyk fight, which was there was a lack of urgency. He was there the whole time, and he actually was, from what it appears like, was probably undermining Rob McCracken. And you're bringing that individual to then help you hire for his version of a number one, or quote unquote, they were both joint number one, bearing in mind that one of them has trained 14 world champions and the other one, I don't know how many champions he trained. What kind of foolishness is this?
Yeah. This sounds a bit similar to the Ben Davison Billy Joe Saunders collab. That's what it sounds like to me. And obviously Angel Fernandez, he's always going to work well with one of his fellow Latino brothers in Roberto Garcia. So yeah, I'm not sure that was quite the good fit for AJ, but he did seem to put on a better performance, so I can't say that it was a bad bad assignment, to be fair. So where does AJ go next ultimately?
For me, get a new trainer, outright head trainer, and he can decide who the sparring partners is. Not 258, not AJ, not all. The new trainer will decide who the sparring partners are. Simple, right?
And what about opponents wise?
Opponents wise, for me, perfect opponent. Zhang in China, fam. Yeah? Zhang in China. He'll come at the end of the year, knock a 39-year-old out in China. You know, I'm sure the Chinese public are not going to call him like a washed-up heavyweight. They're not going to cuss him, put it that way.
They'll love him.
Embrace him. They'll love him, yeah. And then afterwards, that's the key question. Afterwards, what does he want? What does he want out of his career? What is his purpose now? Does he want to become a world champion? Does he want to make as much money as possible? What is his goal? What is his purpose? Because if he wants to become a world champion, Hrgović is probably your best bet, because Hrgović is highly ranked in a lot of the governing bodies. And also, as a few people have been saying, AJ, you know, the top guys want to face him because he's a top level opponent and it's kind of high risk, high reward type of a scenario. But a lot of the opponents that are highly ranked, that are in positions to potentially fight for more titles, AJ's probably already beaten them. They want revenge. Joseph Parker, Andy Ruiz, who else? Dillian White. These guys are like little seeds that AJ's planted that effectively all of them want to avenge their loss to Anthony Joshua.
Mm-hmm.
So AJ is in a very fortunate position that the fights will come to him. I want him to fight like maybe 2 step-up fights. Chang and maybe who else? Luis Ortiz or Frank Sanchez. One of them 2. Take your pick. Take one of them and knock them out. And keep it simple. You know?
Yeah.
A-Class 777 says Zhang, Joyce, and then Wilder. Saj says can beat a few of the top Fury and Usyk. So anybody except Fury and Usyk.
And then he says Joshua can beat a few of the top guys, and Fury Usyk will have his number. Indomitable Lion says his engine is his biggest weakness. Saji says White wants the rematch. I think, yeah, White might need another fight first. So what's your take, Pugilist, on what's next for him fight wise?
Well, pretty much in tune with Off the Canvas in relation to, you know, a new crew, completely new crew of people. I actually think Zhang is not the right person, because I think he's actually a very dangerous fighter for a guy who's coming back from what looks like not only a physical beatdown but a mental beatdown as well. I think he kind of needs a little softer touch before he comes out with, you know, a real big bang fight. And, you know, the big bang fight could be anyone. It could be Zhang. It could be the winner of any of the big fights in America, Wilder, Helenius, or Ortiz, Ruiz. As I mentioned, you know,
Adam Kaunaki wouldn't be bad, would it?
Sorry?
Adam Kaunaki?
Adam Kaunaki would be a good comeback fight for me, because I think he's at that point in his career where he doesn't represent the power to damage or significantly hurt AJ, but he's a workhorse, and he would put in good work for AJ to come back. So yeah, I think that's a great shout, actually.
Yeah, someone like Adam.
I think what he wants to steer clear of is he wants to steer clear of guys who are absolute bangers, you know. And I think Zhang has, you know, has got that in him.
And yeah. So I think Adam Kaunaki, a Jerry Forrest, maybe even a F.A. Ajagba. I think, those kind of
what's F.A. Ajagba in Nigeria.
Yeah, that coffee guy as well. Yeah, those kind of but F.A. Ajagba in Nigeria. Yeah, that would be real tribal. That. I like that. Or even a rematch with Otto Wallin, an amateur rematch. Yeah, that's not.
Yeah, that's a good shout, Vital.
Yeah, Vital Media. Thanks for that. So yeah, guys. I think that's about the conclusion, because you guys didn't watch the Leon Edwards versus Kamaru Usman, otherwise we would have got into that. But if there's any UFC guys who did watch that and want to jump in quickly, I'll give you 45 seconds. Otherwise, we're going to do the closing credits. But thank you, Pugilist and Off the Canvas, for coming on and chopping out with myself. Make sure, guys, that you subscribe to what's the channel called again?
Pugilist Boy.
Pugilist Boy on YouTube, and Off the Canvas Boxing on YouTube, and also hit the follow button on Instagram on both of their pages as well, so you can keep updated, because it's easy to probably keep updated on Instagram rather than YouTube. And thank you once again, guys, for tuning in. It's Danny Glover from Fight Fan TV Live, and remember, persistence beats resistance.
Resistance.
Oh, it is.